Well, good evening. We welcome you to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman.
Good evening.
And I tell you, we are super excited for tonight's broadcast. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in with us. Every Tuesday, we're here live and in living color. And I tell you, it's just been so awesome what God has been doing through In the Blender. And I'm telling you, the praise reports, the victory reports, the questions, everything that we received just been so super joyous, and just so many different things, that ways I can describe the feeling that I get from sharing In the Blender with you guys every Tuesday. Just even on today, I got a text, and I wanted to share a little bit of that text with you guys because it was just so, it just really impactful, the text that we received. And give me 1 second. I can pull that up for you guys. And so basically, I got a text from a young man who's been, I've just been dealing with him for quite some time now, just as friends and as brothers in Christ. And just talking about some issues that he was having as far as his blended family dynamic. And so he sent me a picture of he and his family, his daughter and his daughter's mother, her husband, and their family. And I think the daughter's graduation, if I'm not mistaken. And so in the picture, he said, "This is the result of listening to Blended Family," or In the Blender.
Right.
And then he said, "My God." And the backdrop to that picture was, for quite some time, he was having issues with his daughter's mother's husband. And so it was quite a struggle for them to get on the same page. It was a struggle to communicate because, of course, he had history with this gentleman's wife. And because he had history with this gentleman's wife, he wasn't comfortable or confident as to their relationship. And so, understand, they had a child together. And so they have to communicate because he had to know how his daughter's doing, things as far as school, her health, her well-being, things of that nature, as any parent would need to know. And so I just began to share with them over the course of time some things that I did to make my relationship with my girl's dad a breeze. And I told them how I had to take the low road, which, if anybody knows, that low road is really the high road. And so I had to take the low road to humble myself and say, hey, listen, I'm not here to replace you. I'm here to assist you. And so I just really just poured into this young man, and just poured into him and poured into him. And so the picture that he sent me today was a result of years of pouring into him as related to what he needed to do in that blended family dynamic. And I'm telling you, it's been life-changing. And I think he told me that they all went out to dinner, the first time they've ever been able to sit down as a blended family unit. They all went out to dinner, and they just had an awesome time with each other. And so we're letting you guys know, and I'm sharing this with you because this is one of the many praise reports that we receive on a consistent basis of how this ministry is blessing lives of so many people. And I'm assuming, hopefully real soon, we'll have this gentleman on with me so he can tell his testimony himself. I'm going to tell you, it's an awesome testimony. We've been talking about this for probably about 3 or 4 years, if not longer. Me and him been talking about this, and him listening to what I was saying, and me sharing, my own personal testimony as related to, how I related with the girl's dad, and how we both have such an awesome relationship, because you guys heard me tell the story of my relationship with my daughter's father and how awesome it is. I can sit down with this gentleman and we can have hours worth of conversations at any given moment without interruption. I mean, that's just how much we can communicate with each other. And there's no issues whatsoever as relates to the two of us. We're both mature grown men, and we have one thing in common, and that's the girls. And their overall health, their overall maturation, their overall well-being. And so because we have that in common, anything else is insignificant. Anything else is irrelevant to our relationship.
Right.
And so we're just so excited, man. When you get reports like that of years of having battles with the person, and then all of a sudden you get some wisdom, you get some insight, you get some understanding as it relates to this blended family dynamic and how to maneuver in it. Because a lot of people watching us on a consistent basis, or a lot of people that have heard, or a lot of people that just in blended families, period, they don't know how to navigate situations. They don't know what to do when there's always friction and there's already constraints and restriction as it relates to that relationship and how to get over that hump. And I'm telling you guys, this is 20 years in 2 weeks. Wow, baby. In 2 weeks, we'll be celebrating our 20th year anniversary.
Yes.
20 years anniversary. So we got 20, listen guys, we have 20
Clap
years.
for me.
No, clap for me. Trust me. You want to clap for me. And so, you just don't know. You want to clap for me. And so, you talk about 20 years of ups, downs, ins, outs. And, you know, and the awesome thing is, we didn't have anyone to go to or anyone that wanted to take the time out to really pour into us. Like we're making ourselves accessible and available to you guys on every Tuesday night. We didn't have this. We didn't have people that have already walked that course. Now, there were people that we knew that were blended families, but we never had anyone sit us down and say, hey, guys, you need to do this. Or, hey, guys, you need to do that. Or this is what we did in this situation. We didn't have that. Now, we had some examples. Don't get me wrong. We had examples that eventually we had to start gleaning from afar. You know, one example, an awesome couple, my wife, her older sister is a blended family. And so we watched them. You know, we said like, hey, you know what, we needed to pay attention to them. And they had no idea how much we watched them from afar, you know, and just glean from their relationship and the love that they shared with each other and how they related to their children and things of that nature. And we just really just ate from that. I mean, so we had examples. I have aunts who were blended families. And so I began to really think about what I saw growing up and how I saw them operate and how their family blossomed and bloomed and just was so awesome. And so, again, initially we didn't have it, but when we took time to look back and look at our whole family dynamic, it was easy for us to begin to start seeing individuals that we can glean from. But we didn't just have anyone early on to sit us down or to just give us steps that we can institute, you know, things that we share with you guys on a consistent basis. Because there are steps that you can take that would just bless your family like you would not believe. And so when you get a report like this of someone who's, I mean, been dealing with an issue for years, and then all of a sudden because I remember when I first shared some things with him, he was looking at me like, you got to be kidding. Like, I'm not doing that. And so, but because he saw a consistency in my life, and he kept hearing me tell the same thing over, nothing ever changed. And because it was the same continuously, he said, you know what, maybe there is something to this. And so he began to put some things in place. And I'm telling you guys, his family dynamic has taken off. I mean, it just exploded. And so we're just so excited when you get testimonies like that. And there are others that we're going to be sharing with you guys in the upcoming weeks. But I wanted to share this because when he sent it to me, it was like, man, listen, what you doing tonight? I wanted him on tonight. I wanted to get him on with you guys tonight because it's so awesome when you know that what you're sharing has made a major impact in somebody's life. There's nothing like you having a child and you moved on in relationship, but that dynamic is in turmoil, and you can't have the freedom to communicate and relate like you want to, because you got to go through so many different levels before you can get to that child.
Right.
And so we know. And so when you hear testimonies like that, man, it's just awesome. Mm-hmm. And so, sweetheart, let's give a recap of last week.
That's not.
I mean, the statistics. I'm sorry. It's good. The statistics from last week.
Marriage education is effective in promoting marital quality and stability. 40% of married couples with children in the U.S. are blended families. 46% of remarried couples, a marriage for one or both partners, already have a child under 18 living in the home. 38% of couples who marry for the first time already have a child, biological or a stepchild.
Yes. And so again, we'll say the term stepchild, but we don't subscribe to the term stepchild. We say the term stepchild when we read statistics, because those are the statistics. Those are the stats. That's what they put in.
Right.
But you guys hear me say this all the time. The only steps that we know are the steps that lead up to your home. They either go upstairs or downstairs. Those are the only steps in the home. Because when you use the term step,
it's like a divide.
It denotes division. Because there's no completeness in the word step. And it's just like I said before, she's not my step-wife. I'm not her step-husband. So why would we relate to our children as steps?
Right.
And a lot of times people don't see how simple that really is, but how impactful it is as well. Because when you start saying step, then there's already a lack of connection.
Right, like a kind of separate in a sense.
Yes, it is separate in a sense, because, you already saying you're not mine.
Right.
Basically, that's what you're saying. You're saying you're not mine. And so you're not mine, you belong to another. Now, anybody ever, for 20 years, I've never, ever called my girls, and you just heard me say my girls, my stepdaughters. They're not my stepdaughters, they're my girls. I assisted in raising them. I've been a part of their life for 20 years. And so they're my girls. They've been my girls since day one, because their mama is my girl. And so because she's my girl, they're my girls. And so that's basically, that's the way that goes, and vice versa. And so it's important to understand that, I hear people, there are a whole lot of things I won't go into, but I will never be a subscriber of the word step. We don't step up, we just do. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. God didn't step up to us. He just does. He just is. And so if I'm made in his image and in his likeness, I don't step up. I just do. I just am. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. Mm-hmm. But again, these statistics are awesome. Marriage education is effective in promoting marital equality and stability. Guys, you're going to hear us say this on a continuous basis. There's a lot of information. There's information out there that can assist you in being a better blended family. You're just going to have to research it. You're going to have to look it up. Now, every now and again, we'll share with you guys some of the tools that we use as a blended family. There are some tools that we use specifically for blended family. And then there's tools that we just use for the family. Because although we're a blended family, we're a family. Right. And so there are some things that work for the family unit, whether you're traditional or blended. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to make it like the only tools that you're going to need are blended family tools. No.
Right.
You're going to need those as well as traditional family tools. But let me say this, without the blended family tools, it's going to be a lot harder, because there are some dynamics that you will never learn from a traditional standpoint that will assist you as far as it relates to your blended family. Right. And so last week we talked about adding ingredients and mixing them slowly and carefully. Listen, there are going to be some things that you're going to put into your blended family to make it better. Take your time with it.
Right.
Don't try to add everything. Any of you cake makers out there, you don't put everything in the bowl first. You put some things one thing at a time, and you mix it, then you add. You mix it, then you add. That's what you want to do with this
And
dynamic.
Taste it.
You know what I mean?
What you think?
I don't know. I know you know how to cook, though.
Well, I know how to bake a box cake.
My point exactly.
I
you
ain't
see
done
that?
in years. A box cake. Anybody can do a box cake. Just read the directions.
Well, babe, watch this. Babe, that's what we're doing. We're presenting a box cake. Because some things, watch this. This box cake, you already got the ingredient, but there's some things you add to the box cake, though.
Yeah.
There's some things you add, because there's some things that's in the box mix, but there's some things you add to
And
it.
then what? The only thing come in a box mix is the cake mix, the powder, or whatever.
But it's not traditional flour, though. It's not regular flour.
No, it's the cake batter.
Exactly. So how do you make cake batter?
Whatever ingredients on the back of the box.
My point is that.
It tells you what it's made of.
See, that's
I don't know what it's made of. Now, though, some people make them from scratch, though.
I know, but I'm saying you said a box cake, so I was
Right.
just talking about that.
But you said a box cake come with stuff.
Exactly, because you have a cake mix.
Yeah, but to bake the cake, you got to add the eggs.
But
and
those
the
are additional ingredients.
What?
How do you make cake? How do you make cake mix?
I don't know.
My point exactly. So it had to be. See, that's why it's not good.
Where the cakes.com. Kana got to help us with this one. Kana, how did you make cake mix from the box?
Let me finish. I know what I'm talking about. So there's some things that's already there. That's why you don't interject if you don't.
No, go ahead.
That's why you don't interject if you don't know what you're talking about. You guys see this 20 years. You can't do this. You can't do this year one. You guys be throwing knuckles.
All right, finish your point.
Please, thank you so much. Can I go?
Yeah, I said finish.
All right. And so there's some things that's already in the mix, but you add ingredients to make it the entire cake. And so some of you guys have some things that's already in the mix, but then you need ingredients to make the entire cake. Because again, she can't tell me how do you make cake mix. And so there's a process to make a cake mix. It's not just
before
flour.
You buy the box? Before you buy the box of cake mix?
The cake mix that's in the box. Because it's not just traditional flour.
He's saying that the mix is already in the box, but the eggs,
exactly,
water, etc. have to be.
Exactly. Don't worry, Ken.
Added. Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't
okay.
Worry.
Thank you.
There's a long bus. There's a short bus.
The short one, the one you wrote on. All your years.
There's a long bus, and then there's a short bus. And so that's what you kind of see here. And so, yes, you want to make sure, you want to make sure that you mix this thing slowly. Get to know each person in the family individually instead of all at one time. It's important. We talked about that last week.
Everybody's personality is different.
Exactly.
And you can't handle everybody the same.
Exactly. You can't. You know what I'm saying? There are some things that I could say to each of my daughters that I have to say differently.
Right.
Because all three of them, if I say it the same way,
Somebody.
two of them going to have a problem, one of them not. It's just as simple as that. And so I have to make sure that when I'm dealing with each of them individually, I have to deal with them individually, as individuals, not as a collective group. And so make sure that you're making time for each other. You know, we talked about that. Couples should make priority time for each other. We know there's family times, but in this blended family, it's imperative. Let me say that it's imperative that you guys make time for each other. It's imperative because there's some things that only you can get out of this relationship and that you can make this relationship what it needs to be, but you have to make sure that you're together.
Right.
You know, we had to make sure that we got alone time. And, you know, even though, even 20 years later, we still make sure we make alone time for each other because although the children are gone, we're moved on, you know, but we still have jobs and we have businesses and things of that nature, and we got to make time for each other. And so the next one is anticipate parenting changes. Mm-hmm. You got to anticipate changes, guys. Changes are inevitable and they're necessary. And so you got to anticipate it. What you may do year 1 may not be good enough for year 2 or 3,
Right.
or even year 5 or 6 or so on. And so you have to anticipate changes. When I first met my wife, she had long cascading hair. Change. As you can clearly see, it's no longer long. Change. When she first met me, I had a full beard. As you can see, change. And so you have to, because watch this, as funny as that may seem, there are some people that can't get past that change.
Yeah.
You know, when I first met my wife, I was one weight. A year and a half later, I was almost 100 pounds heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Change. You know, and she was about 50 pounds heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Change. And so we, you know, we had to make some adaptations. But you got to anticipate those because things just change. Your children change.
Right.
Remember, when I came into this dynamic, I had a 16, a 13, and a 10-year-old.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I had 2 teenagers and a preteen. Now I got 3 grown women and seven grandchildren from
on
them.
this side, yeah. Yeah.
So that's change. But you gotta anticipate those changes. It's important to discuss the role of new parents in raising the children. It's important to discuss it. You know, we didn't have that discussion. There were a lot of things that we went through that we shouldn't have gone through if we would have had that discussion. But let me tell you guys.
We had no voice.
Say that again?
We didn't have a voice.
What you mean?
We didn't have, me didn't have a voice. You had the voice.
I was the only voice. Really? Really? Is there a bus nearby? I just felt like I got thrown under the bus. Is there a bus nearby?
Well, I said before you said
it
you was
funny.
going to say it yourself.
I was going to say it. You know, but we got to discuss those roles.
Right.
We didn't discuss them. You know, I was the judge, the jury, and the executioner. All wrapped up in one. You know, it was my way or the highway. And so I had no clue as to what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. All I knew is I thought it needed to be done and I did it. And so you got to discuss those roles because there were things that relate to discipline, correction, instruction that I should have let my wife handle.
Right.
As the biological mom. I should have let her handle, but you know, I wanted to be the big bad wolf. And let me tell you guys, for about 4 or 5 years, I was the big bad wolf. I was the big bad wolf that nobody wanted to be around because I was the big bad wolf. Mm-hmm. And so we're telling you guys, you want to make sure that you discuss this role. It's going to be important. There were a lot of sleepless nights that I could have avoided had I had enough wisdom and instruction and guidance as relates to this area.
Right.
And this is big because, you know, I thank God for the relationship that I had with the girl's father, or that I had with the girl's father, but that I had at that particular time. Because there were some things that could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
But we had a great relationship as it relates to my role. Now watch this. I had a discussion with him, but I didn't have a discussion with them.
Right.
And so it would have been beneficial all the way around if I had a discussion with everybody. Now, I want to make that clear. I did have the discussion with him, but I never had a discussion with them. And so consequently, I had a lot of frustration or frustrating things that I went through because I never sat down and discussed, or we never sat down as a family unit and discussed how certain things were going to be, or how my role was going to be in their lives. And so we talked about patience last week. Patience is key, man. You know, the Bible says, let patience have a perfect work, that you may be entire, wanting nothing. And so it's important when you go into this blended family dynamic, even if you're in it, you have to exercise patience. There's some things that's going to come. There's some things that's going to happen. And it's not going to always be an overnight thing. Most things you deal with aren't going to be overnight. It's not going to be a year. Some things are going to take years to accomplish. There are some things that happen immediately.
Right.
And then there's some things that happen as you go. But patience is the key. And one thing that I've always had patience. And so even when I didn't know what to do, even when I didn't make the proper decisions or choices, I just began to rest in patience. Because once I learned what to do and I figured out how to maneuver this dynamic, I just did it and watched things take place. And I'm going to tell you guys, it changed our lives tremendously. I could pick up the phone right now. My girls can pick up the phone right now. And we can just have long, long conversations. There's no problem. There's no, you know, sometimes things have been so bad that only conversations you guys can have is rehashing those bad memories. We don't have that.
Right.
We don't have that. And so, but that's because I let patience have her perfect work. I did some things. There's a saying that my pastor always says. He says, something happened, time passed, and something happens. So there were some things that happened early on, time passed, and then there was a fruit to it. But what I had to do was I had to make the necessary adjustments to what I was doing because I knew what I wanted to get out of that dynamic. And once I made the adjustments, something happened, time passed, and then something happened. So what happened was I made an adjustment, time passed, and then our family became better.
Right.
I made adjustments, time passed, and then our family became better. And so we tell you guys, you have to make sure that you use patience. Patience is key. You can't get around it. You can't get over it. You can't get under it. You need to exercise patience, especially to this blended family dynamic. Patience operates in several different ways. It's a preservative. It draws moisture and volatility out of the family because just like moisture in food, microbes that can spoil food need moisture to grow. So you need patience. Many diseases and conflicts causing microbes are simply unable to grow in the presence of patience. So when you exercise patience, those things that try to grow, those negative things that try to pop up in your family, when you exercise patience, you kill it because you're not putting pressure on it.
Right.
You're not trying to make it happen overnight. The next thing is patience is like salt. Patience can enhance the texture. I love this. Patience can enhance the texture of the blended family. When you're making yeast bread, we talked about baking a little bit earlier, but when you're making yeast bread, the amount of salt greatly affects the rate of the yeast fermentation and gluten formation. See, only bakers understand this. Both of which will significantly affect the bread's final texture. So, again, patience is like salt. When you add patience from a salt perspective to your family dynamic or your blended family dynamic, you enhance it. You add texture to it. You add a texture that normally wouldn't be there.
Right.
And so it's important that you want to do that. If you don't apply the proper amount of patience to the blended family, you won't get the desired texture, period. Patience can serve as a flavor enhancer. Just like with salt, because we talked about salt, patience can also affect the flavor elements such as sweet and bitter. So not only can patience give a salty taste to it, it can enhance the flavor, but it makes it even sweeter, or a lack of patience makes it bitter.
Right.
And so initially, I lacked patience, or I didn't exercise my patience. And a lot of things were bitter. But once I began to exercise that patience as it relates to our blended family, then the flavor of it just enhanced. I mean, I'm talking about so much so that it's so funny because the two older girls are brown skinned, but the youngest girl is dark skinned. The daughters.
With darker, yeah.
Yeah.
Shadeva not brown. She kind of light.
Well, she brown, light brown. She not dark skinned. So, I mean, but my point is, before I was so rudely interrupted, my point is, because of the flavor that we added to this dynamic, when people saw me and the younger girl, they was like, man, she looked just like you.
We would laugh.
And we would laugh, you know, because we knew the truth. But the truth is, she was mine, so she does look like me. You know, we used to hear that growing up all the time. You feed a person long enough, they're going to look like you. And so that's what we dealt with.
We would never look alike.
Well, we want to thank you. Some people, I tell you, some people.
Oh, Lord, it's 8 o'clock.
Some people, listen, we're going to pick this back up. But again, we love you guys. We thank you for tuning in. If you missed last week's broadcast, you want to tune into it.
Yeah, that was part one of.
That was part one. You can either go to our Facebook page, go to our In the Blender page, or you can go to our YouTube page, In the Blender.
And catch all of them.
Catch all of them.
All of them up on YouTube.
Yes. And how can they reach us?
We are a blended family at gmail.com.
Get that to them one more time.
Email us at weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
Hey, Chief, what's going on? I tell you, listen, you guys don't want to miss this. This is going to be 3 parts. We're going to finish it off next week. If I don't have a new special guest, I'm looking to have a special guest on next week as well. But you guys want to tune in. This has been exciting. I'm telling you guys, this one here is going to change your life. It's going to change it. We're going to share some things with you guys that's just going to be life-changing. We love you guys. We thank you so much for tuning in. Until next week.
Wait, we got to read our final thought.
Our final thought.
Always remember that every family is different and may have different challenges. So every blended family challenge should be addressed individually depending upon the challenge.
The personalities are different. So you want to use measures that work for you.
One of the main ingredients that you should always do is keep the lines of communication open in the blended family.
Parents should always show unity in front of the children, even if they secretly don't agree.
Showing that you are unified diffuses the enemy's attacks in the blended family.
Lastly, you want to always demonstrate patience.
Having patience to work through the difficult challenges in the blended family will bring about a happy blended family.
And remember, you became a blended family because you chose to. Now choose to be successful. We love you guys. We thank you for tuning in. Hey, Daryl, what's going on?
See you next week.
Bye-bye.